Stream title should be Yumiko Root Part 1, I should say. That's... yeah. What I ideally still want to get finished, so I can actually say I finally, like, finished all of Fruit of Grisaia. I got the game in fucking 2020. Actually, let me just double check, like, the upload date of my main route Part 1. I want to just go double check the upload date of my first, like, Fruit of Grisaia live stream. I've done like 47 live streams of it. Last I checked, recently. Okay, this one's apparently going to be number 48. Main route Part 1. Where's the date on this? February 8th, 2020. I know I'm the speedrunning type, but... why do I feel like we might actually have a chance at getting the slowest ever Fruit of Grisaia completion? Instead of, like, the fastest. Clearly not getting the fastest ever completion. Might be the slowest, though, at, like, just under 3 years. Definitely not clicking from the beginning. So, if I'm not mistaken, it was, you get to Michiru's, well, you get to the fork in the road that you could either just take, and if you say, like, yeah, you get to this point where you have the choice of, I guess, oh, I thought I was gonna say follow, but no, like, you ask her something. I'm pretty sure, like, this was the choice I picked all this time back to get on Michiru's route, so if I want to go to Yumiko's. I do remember correctly that you have, like, 4 choices to go on to each of the other, like, 4 main characters' routes, and if you say no to all 4, you're on Yumiko's. So we basically just ignore Michiru being weird. She'll no doubt be back to the normal Michiru soon enough. Sorry, I scared off the cat. Not to worry, he's quite attached to me. If I come here, I can see him whenever. Alright then, I'll be heading back to the dorm. Where's Michiru? Her condition appears favorable. There's nothing in particular to be worried about. Did you not hear me before? I said to take responsibility, didn't I? I checked up on her, isn't that sufficient? I am not the girl's father, you know. I'm not obliged to spend all day nursing her. Yeah, but I mean... what, you still have a problem? She'll return eventually. Oh god, I remember her. Both, like, her well, then again, like, everybody so far has had a fucked up backstory. It's basically, like, a requirement to get into Mihama Academy. You gotta have a seriously fucked up backstory or you're not getting into school. I was gonna say Makina's backstory, but everyone's is just sick and twisted and depressing. Like, everyone's got a depressing backstory in this. I mean, like, I really can't choose between, like, me basically just being used by my mother as, like, live bait to have my father murdered, or just being stuck at the bottom of a valley for 15 days where it eventually just breaks, everything just falls apart, and my classmates are trying to kill each other and eat each other. Or just having the split personality and then literally just having, like, a tutor who was supposed to be helping you basically just completely destroying your self-esteem. Or just having to live with the guilt, thinking that you were the one responsible for your parents' deaths for all these years, and then basically just, as a coping mechanism, literally just obeying every single order you're given, no matter the consequence. Basically just sacrificing what makes you a human to do so. Oh yeah, and the fucking sex scene. Yumi-chan gets really cranky when she doesn't get enough alone time after all. An excellent case in point. You continue to impress me. You're quite right. I suppose always being around others might, well, grate on the nerves. You really sure she's okay? Yeah, there isn't a problem, I'll guarantee that. I guess that's good enough. I mean, I think maybe with, like, the kind of anime characters I am, like, physically, like, interested in, like, I would have enjoyed that scene, but... No, it was, like, seriously, like, really awkward still. Just as promised, Mitsuru returns shortly after. I spot her walking down the dorm hallway, chewing on something with the reinvigorated expression of a woman just past the kidney stone. You're back, it would seem. Of course I am. Just felt a tiny bit sick, so I went out to get some fresh air. What are you eating? What is that? She threw something at me, so I just reflexively chomped down on it. She had Tsurute for real, so I'm like, this is the real deal, huh? You just can't beat the name brands when it comes to flavor, right? I think the nuance of Machina's real might be slightly different from what Mitsuru thinks, but it's probably best not to mention that. I see. Anyway, you're feeling better now? But of course, is that Mitsuru doing well too? That Mitsuru? Which Mitsuru? I'm me, aren't I? Don't ask me all these weird questions, okay? Yes, this was the character with the split personality. Yeah, assuming you actually go play down, or like you're gonna get way more details on that. But yeah, I guess for the context of Yumiko's route, Mitsuru is basically just Mitsuru, like nothing else to really like drive home. I see. Make sure you get to bed early tonight. Rest up and recover your health. I plan to, not that it's any of your business. You're nothing but a... Yeah, sometimes those two can just be so cute together. I just can't help but... Yeah, especially there was that like one scene where the two of them were practicing their English in the main route. It's Urute. Yeah, this third-rate knockoff Urute just can't compare. The real deal was seriously delicious, though. One other thing, Mitsuru, take some stomach medicine tonight. If possible, get it from Sachi, not Machina. But why? Because if you ask Sachi, she'll give you the real stuff. Like a trendy brand name stomach medicine? Just do it alright. This one kind of tastes like pencil dust for some reason. What are you eating? With this, the Mitsuru incident drew to a close. Human beings are multifaceted creatures. It's perfectly normal for someone to change their tone of speech depending on who they're addressing. Oh, and then there's all these monologues that just... Now that I'm finally getting to read one of these again after what felt like a year, because it was. Now I'm getting to remember just how smart Yuji was. I mean, he's definitely said some really insightful shit in some of these monologues over the course of, like, basically the whole game. Yeah, typically, like, when we're beginning or ending a chapter, like, he goes off on a monologue, and sometimes, like, you just strike gold with it. Yeah, sometimes basically the writers just literally strike gold with these. Fairly significant shifts in their personality aren't uncommon either. Something rather inspired atypical behavior from Mitsuru today, but I have no idea what the root cause was, and when you get right down to it, it's none of my business. There's a line I shouldn't cross here. If I want to avoid tracking my muddy footprints all over my classmates' fragile hearts, I need to continue to exercise such restraint as long as I live in this place. Everyone has their weaknesses. Human beings aren't omnipotent. If anything, we're largely powerless, and so I must be resourceful. We're born utterly impotent, and no matter how long we live and how much we learn, we'll always have more weaknesses than strengths. Our resourcefulness is the tool by which we work around these shortcomings. Sometimes we find a way to conquer our failings, more often we learn avoidance. Ways to keep them from hurting us. Whatever the means, in the end we gain the ability to scrape by. As weaklings go, we're a hardy breed. One afternoon, just as I'm leaving the shopping area in front of the train station, something catches my attention. I draw to a halt and turn to look. Can I help you, miss? This is like perfectly in character for Yumiko, just kind of like staring at him, like not really like talking much or showing much expression. Yeah, Yumiko's mostly emotionless, from what I remember. Looks that can kill, and those who cringe in terror. If this were Nagasaki a few hundred years ago, you might guess someone has splashed mud on a samurai, but this is a modern town not far from Tokyo, and that right there is a young woman. Just a moment ago, I sensed an ominous, foreboding aura across the street, powerful enough to inspire a momentary surge of concern. Thought there might have been some terrorist attack in the making, but I guess it's just Sakaki being Sakaki. Might have been a bit on edge since I just paid a visit to Ichigaya to take care of some minor chores. Either way, I investigated the situation for safety's sake, only to find an individual in some ways more troublesome than your garden variety terrorists. Sakaki Yumiko. A curt, antisocial classmate of mine should about cover it. I'm amazed to find she's capable of projecting such a ferocious aura as to fool my carefully honed instinct for danger. Seems she's still capable of surprising me. Quite impressive, really. It's not likely that many schoolgirls would particularly enjoy receiving that sort of compliment. Still, just what is she doing over there? She's just standing there. Menacingly? Sakaki stands under a colorfully yellow and red striped awning, glaring powerfully through the glass at the interior of a... Yeah, basically. Get out of there, SpongeBob! Since the girl is usually defined by her emotionless, disinterested, and asocial vacuum of a personality. The intense passion in that gaze is somewhat surprising. And nubile? What does that mean? Stands alone in front of a crepe shop. Normally, I think this would inspire some delusional fantasies on your part. Sachi, having snuck up beside me at some point, offers a typically helpful suggestion. For example, the crepe she buys suddenly explodes, leaving her covered from head to toe in sticky cream. I love how she's saying this with this this serious expression on her face. Like, there's just nothing unusual about what she just said. For example, the crepe she buys suddenly explodes, leaving her covered from head to toe in sticky cream. I believe a hackneyed delusion of this sort would be the typical next step in this situation. I'm trying to not laugh, but Sachi's clearly better at it than me. But cream play, eh? Come on, I really don't think that's typical. Not asking for a description of your sexual fantasy, Sachi. I'm just wondering what Sakaki's doing in front of that shop. Quickly outpaced by the conversation, I attempt to get things back on topic, and the next moment someone vigorously yanks on my sleeve. That's someone being Machina, of course. She's got a comically proud expression on her face. I'm reminded of a toddler reporting she went poopy all by herself to her parents, in full expectation of their lavish praise. I hardly think this girl is likely to have any accurate information, but I suppose it can't hurt to ask. Well, Machina, do you know something about this? Sees that shop, then coldly raises it to the ground and salt the earth used to stand. Great, thanks. You've been a big help. As expected, asking Machina was an utter waste of time. Not that I'm expecting anything resembling a coherent answer, but I just can't help myself. Why would Sakaki need to do that? That's her hobby, you know? When you use that disbelieving, everybody knows that tone of voice. It almost sounds convincing. Yumi-chan's human side. Violently snatching people's stores to wipe them out of existence is her human side? Even for Sakaki, that seems excessively malicious. I've been talking with these people for several minutes now, and none of them have said anything remotely insightful, or even coherent. Have they collectively lost what little sanity they had left? Oh right, that's because I sense your presence nearby. Personally, I thought that bit about the whipped cream earlier was slightly more ridiculous. What was that all about anyway? It's only natural to have someone eat off your naked body at least once, just to check it off the list. You reached a consensus on that? The initial topic was ridiculous enough, but how the discussion might develop towards and arrive at that conclusion is completely beyond my comprehension. You're misunderstanding something here. Amani's just making this up. It's not gonna agree to anything like that. Michiru-sama is pure as the driven snow after all, even if her hair is dyed blonde. Hey you, maid! I don't really think I really like the way you put that. And don't casually just diss my hair color. Are you calling me a slut? Michiru-sama, I'll give you a nice shiny penny, so please settle down. You may look like a slut, but I assure you don't believe You may look like a slut. That's still one of the worst things you could have said. A penny? Cool! Hey, you know what? If you're trying to fix your mistake, then do it properly! I am truly sorry, you're quite correct. As your hair is dyed blonde, perhaps pure as the yellow stained snow would be the more appropriate description. That was not the issue. Yeah, watch out where the Huskies go. Don't eat that yellow snow. Frank Zappa, sometime in the 1970s most likely. I'm gonna guess 1975, but I'm probably dead wrong. Hey guys, it's nice you're having fun over there, but if you keep squawking like that, Sakaki-san's going to notice us. And then we're gonna get subjected to her unimaginably gruesome revenge. Let's try to use her indoor voices. Considering the situation, I'll stay quiet for now, but don't think this is over. I have a hard time not peeing myself. It's like something out of a horror flick. Yeah. I still remember that. I know, I still remember that, by the way. Yeah, we know. Anyone who saw, like, the 18+, one of the 18+ scenes would know. So I'm getting the idea this is a deliberate surveillance operation on your part. Covert activities of this sort are well within the range of my professional expertise, and this noisy crowd of schoolgirls would have to be the single least competent operation I've ever seen. I feel mildly dizzy. Let's put a positive spin on it and say I'm always seeing new things when I'm with these people, although I never want to work a job with them. Of course, you can't say Sakaki's much better than the rest since she still hasn't caught on. She's staring intently at a piece of paper in the shop window. Perhaps she's finally tracked down the menu that killed her family? Or at least I hope that's a menu. If that sheet of paper has a manager's name written on it or something, I'd love to. I'd have to assume Sakaki's trying to place some sort of fatal curse on him. Wow, 30 minutes and she hasn't budged an inch. In other words, you people have been here for half an hour as well. I mean, forget Sakaki, what's your objective here? I was originally thinking you came as a group and just entered to buy everyone crepes. You do have a point. Just spotted Yumi-chan like that, so I messaged everyone else to join up here. Group stalking? You guys really got along. Oni-chan, you casually joined in right on in yourself. I just coincidentally happened to. Well, no, I guess you're right. Can't really deny that. What's with that wishy-washy answer? Forget it. Truth of the matter is, I realized halfway through the sentence that defending myself would require a tiresome explanation and decided to follow the path of least resistance instead. It's one of the little tricks I've resourcefully picked up to make my life among these people easier. Well... Yumiko, a crepe shop? That's right, Yuji. Do you even know what crepes are? Something you eat, for sure. Whipped cream and... that sounds about right. Whipped cream, fruit, and then omelets. Not that I've ever eaten one. Maybe once or twice, but judging from the way I can't particularly recall the experience, it can't be that memorable a treat. In all fairness, I'm basically not that interested in food in the first place, and the crepe's a sugary thing aimed at women and children. It'd be downright strange if I was interested in it. More like a pancake, but you're essentially correct. I don't know. I see, I think I finally understand the situation. In short, they're all just bursting with sheer curiosity. After all, our cool and collected Sakaki appears to be longing after a sugary treat. Okay, that's perfectly normal. What kind of crepe will she order? What's the look on her face going to look like when the moment finally comes? How will she eat it? Yeah, I forgot just how, like, weird some of these slice-of-life scenarios could just turn out to be. A new side of Sakaki Yumiko, a face she keeps carefully hidden from us, might well emerge in that moment. Normally, this sort of event would hardly warrant such high expectations. You fully expect Sakaki to casually buy something in her usual apathetic way, then casually eat it without any particular expression on her face. Okay, so Yuji and his classmates have been sitting here for over half an hour, watching one of their other classmates just stare at a bunch of crepes, waiting in anticipation to see which one she's going to buy. Just a normal thing, like, kids their age do. Most normal thing kids do these days. But for some reason, Sakaki appears to be seriously conflicted instead. This tantalizing hint of something out of the ordinary has clearly fueled the group's hopes. Sakaki, every ounce of her concentration focused on the menu in front of her, glares into the window like a thug trying to intimidate someone in submission. I can't say I've ever seen anyone buy a treat with an expression like that in their face. What on earth is she thinking about at the moment? Oh no, maybe she, like, remembers the clerk from some past experience or some shit? And, well, maybe, like, he was a dick to her in the past or some shit, I don't know. Hey, Pops, give me some tofu udon with plenty of onions and tempura, and don't get stingy with the soup, neither. We sell crepes here, blockhead. What the hell was that? Just had to let off a little tension, you know? Right, but why did you bother? I was thinking maybe she'd just crack and blurt something like that out. Look, not everyone is as bipolar as you are. Sakaki may seem fearsome at times, but this girl is frightening in her own right. I bet I know Sakaki-san's really thinking. What's the big deal? You know, Yushi, I feel like you're harder on me than Sachan or Makina. What's up with that, Treating you like the adult you should be. Also, do me a favor and don't try to talk like the kids these days. At your age, it's just embarrassing to watch. What the hell? Since when was I middle-aged? Forget it, I give up. Do what you want. I will now convey our thoughts to you. Excuse me. I seem to have dropped my nipple. Instantly, I feel the air around me freeze solid. Ignoring this completely, Amane forges on ahead with her monologue. Am I right? Yes, it's pinkish. A bit on the small side. Have you seen it? What the fuck? Please stop. You're disgracing yourself as a human being. Huh? No good? Really? Your beloved Kansai is the cultural capital of Japanese comedy, isn't it? Can't you tell the difference between a safe joke and one that's just awkward for everyone involved? Nipples are totally A-okay. Over there, they'd be giving you old ladies walking around with their titties hanging out, you know? Why am I the only one facing the music? Please, say no more, Amane-san. You too, Sachan? Did I go too far? Can you even drop a nipple in the first place? Finally crushed by the awkward atmosphere, Amane slowly crumbles to the ground in shame. Okay, Chiru, you're up. Seems Michiru was anticipating this possibility as she's been keeping uncharacteristically quiet and inconspicuous since the comedy routine started. To no avail, of course. Something close to panic spreads across her face. Why are we doing stand-up comedy in the first place? Just for the heck of it. That's the raison d'etre of this entire event, don't you think? Okay, so they spent like about 30 minutes watching like one of their classmates decide which crepe to buy, and then just randomly started doing stand-up comedy. Yeah, I really do feel like I should have finished this one by now. This whole visual novel. But more likely than not, I'm gonna be like finishing Yumiko Route in fucking 2023. Doesn't matter if you're funny or not, just go for it. Or like how cringe you might be. I mean, we had Amane like be really cringy with the falling off nipples. The only thing that's truly important here is to be a good sport and avoid ruining the lighthearted mood. Do you understand me, Chiro-sama? You shall rue the day you cross me, crepe. For I... Game over, Michiru-sama. What? I don't get it. You people are seriously cruel. I only hurt Chiro because I love her, you know? That a fact? Her attempt at a joke was unfortunately most poorly conceived and not amusing in the least, but in the grand scale of things, such matters are entirely inconsequential. Right, Michiru-sama? Michiru responds to her friend's tough love by curling up into a fetal ball next to Amane, but I'm not well versed in these matters, so if Makina says this is motivated by affection, I guess I'll take her word for it. You're our last contestant? I guess not. I'm expecting big things from you, kid. Why did you feel the need to declare that? What a mess. Then again, even this nasty little game is nothing compared to the many seriously unpleasant varieties of humor I've had to deal with in the workplace. Consciously tuning out all sensory data to turn my focus completely inward and rapidly begin to devise a plan. Speed is crucial in this sort of thing. A gag centered around Sakaki, eh? Maybe I'll play up the gap between her girly taste and violent personality. Seems like it might fit the bill. To find everyone has vanished. Amane and the others are gone. Even Sakaki has suddenly gone missing. I guess she's still around after all. She's not currently in my field of vision. And there's definitely no mistaking this menacing metallic sound. Seems she managed to sneak up on me at some point. What are you doing? Hold that thought. Can you try saying excuse me, which would make a better weapon, banana or strawberry flavored crepes? Just an experiment. Are you trying to distract me by spouting utter nonsense? I'd rethink that strategy. Right. Sorry, forget it. You want to know what I was doing here? I was observing you, Sakaki. I see. First things first, I'm going to murder you now. Sorry, but that's well beyond your capabilities, as I think you've known for some time now. When I turned back, Sakaki was indeed waiting for me. Despite the anger smoldering beneath the surface, there's no obvious signs of rage on her face. She's expressionless as always. I guess I should interpret that as a positive thing, but it feels more like a letdown. Might have been interesting to see some naked emotion from her for once. Where did the others go? They sprinted off at full speed. Guilty conscience, perhaps? I expect they must have been brutally mocking a certain pathetic girl who couldn't even choose a crepe off the menu. That's what was going on there. Huh? We were trying to figure out why you were just standing there like a statue. We were amusing ourselves with inventing ludicrous theories, but I might as well leave that unsaid. And I let it slip. Hoisted by my own petard, as they say. I'll never live this one down. So were we able to buy a crepe in the end? I just didn't want one anymore. I see. At first I was just a little indecisive. Right. Are we still discussing this? She's awfully talkative. I mean, if she was going to give me the real story, why lie about not wanting one in the first place? All my options looked incredibly delicious, so I just couldn't decide. I see. Right. I really couldn't decide. That hard a choice, eh? I was expecting you to laugh there. Sorry, I guess I missed the cue. Whatever, never mind. Sakaki averts her face uncomfortably. I do feel bad about making your joke fall flat, but I seriously didn't catch it. To be honest, I still don't understand when or why I was supposed to laugh. I guess the two of us just aren't cut out for this sort of thing. Sakaki may not be much of a comedian, but I'm hardly the best audience. So you never ended up making a decision? Then why not buy it? I suppose I could have, but you're not holding a crate. I spent too much time standing there. When I finally looked over, the clerk was staring at me with this incredibly suspicious look on his face. Instantly realized I'd never be able to buy anything from that store ever again, but there just weren't any other customers stopping by, so I couldn't slip away. Since you were standing there glowering like the incarnation of wrath, I expect any potential customers fled in terror. Fortunately, I eventually noticed you people over here and managed to break free out of pure anger. I see. Of course, Sakaki has to be aware the threat is as hollow as well. I expect she's unsheathing her blade mostly a means to concentrate her hostility rather than the expectation that it will make an effective weapon. You're planning to make a mockery of me, I presume? Don't jump to conclusions. What other reason could there possibly be for you to spy on me? Once you got that grape and started eating it, I thought I might get to see you smile happily for once. Simple as that. Hmm? Sakaki? What on earth? Did you really want to see that? I'm a little interested, yes. Sakaki's only reaction to my statement is a disinterested grunt. This doesn't change the fact you're being rude. If it seemed that way to you, I can't argue. Sorry about that. But as a punishment, I'll smash that delusion of yours to smithereens. Say what? Oh, shit. What do you think? I'm really not sure how to respond to that question. Oh, I thought she was kissing him. I'm required to watch intently as Sakaki eats her crate. Apparently, Sakaki plans to use this opportunity to crush my expectation that eating something sweet would prompt her to smile. Of course, this involved me sending me to the creepery to buy Sakaki her treat. I have a nagging suspicion that may have been the main point of this exercise. That said, I don't think I've ever seen anyone eat a dessert quite this expressionally before. She's so obviously doing it on purpose out of sheer stubbornness that it's taking a conscious effort to keep my amusement from showing on my face. Sakaki speaks triumphantly, an expression of superior scorn spreading across her face. Not a particularly interesting sight now, is it? I have to say I was surprised. Guess so. Her face tense with concentration, Sakaki earnestly devours her treat. To be honest, it looks a bit dirty with that whipped cream and all. No point in making things even more troublesome, so I'll keep that thought to myself. Sakaki, blissfully oblivious of my perspective on the matter, crunches and munches loudly away at her crepe. Okay. So I guess that's the end of that chapter, or like... Well, we're suddenly here with JB. Investigators report concerning Sakaki. Although she demonstrated a pronounced rejection impulse on first contact, the two have since established a comparatively cordial relationship. Continuing investigation should... That's enough. Alright. Thank you for the update, I believe. I now have a firm grasp on the recent developments in that ungrateful child's social life. Please allow me to excuse myself. Don't be in such a hurry. Is there something else? My intentions haven't quite gotten across to you people. I wasn't asking your organization to carry out a mere character investigation on my daughter. What exactly? Are you under the impression I constructed that ridiculously large facility just to provide my daughter and a handful of other problem children with a carefree living environment? I expect her to reflect on the idiotic stunt that nearly landed her in a courtroom. I expect her to reform, prepare to join our East Beach Express group, but I need this to happen as soon as possible. From what you're telling me, a lot of them are idly enjoying a stress-free life, while Yumiko herself shows no sign whatsoever of repenting. I've waited long enough and now I want results. I expect that investigator you people sent in. What was his name again? Kazami Yuji. He's not merely an investigator, he's a student first and foremost, acting on our behalf in private. That Kazami so-and-so individual, since you have him in place, I expect you to make use of it to influence events in a more favorable direction. Specifically, I want Yumiko to correct her antisocial behavior, indicate her willingness to do as she's told, and return home obediently. Our organization isn't in the business of counseling or brainwashing. Naturally, we do occasionally engage in such things in the course of operations, but I'm sure as you can appreciate, even a child of the Sakaki family, even for a child, national assets can't be used quite that freely in pursuit of personal interests. This isn't a mere family squabble. Our East Beach group has supported this country for 100 years, and it's absolutely critical we have a cornerstone for the next generation ready to smoothly inherit that tradition. This is kind of sounding like Makota's backstory already, where she was supposed to, like, inherit a place in that giant crime family. And my guess is Yumiko is going to just not want to do the same. The taxes we pay in combination with numerous voluntary gratuities make those operations of yours a great deal easier to carry out. As I'm sure an individual of your stature must be aware, outside the very lowest ranks, there isn't a single person in our organization who doesn't appreciate the significance of your contributions, Sakake. I understand. Not to rush, but do you have any ideas how I might encourage Yumiko to reform her conduct? How about this? I'll arrange for Yumiko to be attacked. A constant sense of danger should snap her out of that tranquil indolence quickly enough. Once she's gained an appreciation for how frightening the world outside her sheltered bubble can be, I expect she'll prove more receptive to my words. A good start, don't you think? You asshole! Yeah, clearly not the only parent who wanted to have their daughter attacked for some reason. Do you have an objection? I have plenty. No, we'll support you in that strategy. I do have one additional proposal, however. I'd like to have our investigator act as your daughter's bodyguard. How are we supposed to frighten her if she's being protected? Respectfully, a sudden threat out of nowhere would likely be more confusing than anything else. But by assigning her a bodyguard first, and slowly escalating atmosphere of crisis, seeing would be to add a greater sense of reality to the danger? Very well, I'll leave that element entirely to your discretion, Haradera-san. Well then, please excuse me. There's no such thing as a fun job. Of course, you'll find plenty of people willing to declare that work brings them nothing but joy, but look around them or underneath them, and you'll always find scowling people covered in mud. More often than not, the person who loves their job is really just the biggest slacker in the office. Work is unpleasant and often boring, that's why they pay you to do it. Something you were doing in the first place just naturally becomes your job. You're either a genius, an idiot, or incredibly lucky. What? What's the deal with that job of yours anyway? Unfortunately, I'm none of the above. By most standards, my occupation is just about the last thing you could describe as fun. It requires steady, rigid discipline. There's no tolerance for failure, but even in success, you'll never see the spotlight. On top of it all, it demands specialist expertise, extensive experience, and training even when off duty. It's a little hard to summarize, but I guess you'd call me a craftsman of sorts. That sort of thing? Those would be the typical examples, but craftsman is a pretty vague term. There's quite a range of people who fall under that umbrella. Though you think of those things working with material, there are some who engage in more abstract forms of workmanship. And the craftsmen in my line of work deal in the most formless thing of all. Also, that's not an interest in my job after all this time. Hardly that interesting a subject. Actually, everyone's hella curious. It's just as Maki-chan says. Indeed. Not that I'm constantly acting, but I've been trying to keep my behavior fairly normal, so as to avoid projecting the atmosphere characteristic of my occupation. Even so, it seems there's a degree of stiff artificiality to my performance that may have an equally unsettling effect on my classmates. A deeply regrettable failure on my part. Can't really tell what your deal is, you know? Yeah, that's why I thought, like, F8 just brought up, like, what came before. Because it does in Grisaia. That's why I thought it would just bring up what came before if I pressed F8 on my keyboard when I'm playing a Doki Doki mod. Because it works in Grisaia. I'll arrange for Yumiko to be attacked. A constant sense of danger should snap her out of that tranquil indolence quickly enough. Yumiko's dad is gonna end up on r/I am a piece of shit. Yeah, he and Mako's mom would be perfect for that subreddit. You throw these big words around all casually and you can run like 50 miles without breaking a sweat and you're always making fun of me. I feel obligated to point out that the final item on your list does not indicate a trait particular to Kazami-san. That's not true. The guy's always talking to me like I'm an idiot. Or calling me a newly discovered mystery life form or whatever. I swear I wouldn't know tact if it hit him over the head. I'm afraid Yuchi's commentary regarding Michiru is mostly justified, if a bit on the tactless side. Achu gluteus? The phrase is, Itsu brute? I was wondering what the fuck he was trying to say. The phrase is, are you Brutus, Michiru-sama? I'm terribly sorry, but it would be best for you to stay silent for the moment. Achu gluteus? There, nothing to be shocked speechless about here. I'll give you a nice banana to gnaw on. What the heck, now you're making fun of me, Makana? Why a freaking banana anyway? A yellowish hair color leads to a fondness for bananas? One exceptionally novel hypothesis. Michiru-sama, at this moment, I'm truly glad I chose to follow you. If you're following me, how about backing me up once in a while? Uki? Amazing, you're truly without peer, Michiru-sama. Are you guys done asking me questions now? There haven't been many cases since my arrival at this school when I was grateful to Michiru, but her ability to rapidly derail conversations is truly welcome at times like these. Oh yeah, I can't forget Michiru just making conversations just go weird. But just as I'm about to wrap things up and make my leave, a cell phone rings in my pocket. Unfortunate timing. JB, huh? Most contact from JB in any form means a business discussion. Accordingly, I have to answer her calls when the others are not in earshot. It's me. You'll have better luck finding free lunch than a job that's generally fun. And mine is certainly no exception to the rule. When you live in a communal residence, you're always going to find some people you hit it off with and some who are harder to handle. Ideally, find points of compromise and stay on cordial terms with even the difficult residents. One of those underappreciated little skills to get you ahead in life. Unfortunately, I don't possess that. In this storm, I guess Amani would be first on the list in terms of friendliness. Although in her case, it's less hitting it off and more hitting on. Next in line would be Sachi, but she's got some abnormal quirks that can be tricky to handle, so I rank false slightly. Makana and Michiru have a hard time even holding coherent conversations, making it a little hard to evaluate if we think in similar ways. But if I humor them with a little attention, they'll start chatting away all on their own. So in a sense, they're easy enough to deal with. Might not be blessed with much in the way of social skills, but even I can interact with those four without particular difficulty. This girl, however, is a different story. We were on seriously hostile footing from the very start, and our frequent chance encounters in the dorm haven't really helped. There's still a sense of tension in the air when we run into each other. Granted, it's a bit of an improvement compared to the way she used to slash at me with a box cutter on sight, but her attitudes remained stubbornly standoffish. There's no sign of a real thaw in relations. Looking around the area in a slightly forced way, Sakaki mutters those words, without particularly directing them at me. Amani's out shopping with Makana. Said they'll be back this evening. The principal called Sachi to run an errand for the school. Haven't seen Michiru all day. I see. The conversation dies there. Sakaki once again begins moving her eyes across the pages of a novel I'm sure she already finished reading. We may not talk much, but I've learned enough about Sakaki over the last few months to say that we got a surprising amount in common. We both enjoy reading, and don't mind spending time alone. We're both prone to mull things over in languid skygazing sessions on rooftops, but similarity doesn't have much to do with hitting it off on someone. When it's two similarly unsociable types like us, it's easier for conversations to stagnate awkwardly. Asymmetrical interactions where people complement each other through contrast actually make for a much more harmonious atmosphere. Every once in a while, Sakaki's eyes flick up off the page to shoot a quick glance in my direction. Might sound like a girl in love trying to secretively keep an eye on her crush, but the reality is less idyllic. She seems to be trying to figure out how to extricate herself from this awkward situation. Although she's clearly bothered by the heavy silence in the air, I don't find it that uncomfortable. After piling the 4 books I brought from my room on the table, I lean back on one elbow and begin to work my way through the first. So I guess they're just reading now. Apparently reaching the limits of her endurance, Sakaki abruptly drops her book onto the coffee table and stands up. Before I can even react, she turns to 3 o'clock and starts to walk away. Looking up from my book, I call out a question before she can make a getaway. You going somewhere? So she walks off. Her slippers squeak against the hallway floor with an orderly rhythm reminiscent of a soldier on the march. Alright then. Snapping my book shut, I rise quietly from my seat and begin to walk off in the same direction. With a steady, regular gait, just like Sakaki's, following in her footsteps. You want me to play bodyguard? Sakaki Yumiko-san, specifically, you're familiar with her, aren't you? Familiar with her name and face, other than that my information's limited. No kidding, I was convinced you've been learning all sorts of things. She's just a classmate, we're not particularly close. We'll have to educate you somewhat. Here, these are the case materials. It contained a bulky bundle of A4-sized documents. The first page had a photograph of Sakaki's face, along with some simple bullet points concerning her background. I did receive a very basic overview of the girl's personal circumstances when her father visited the school. Pages didn't contain much beyond what I've already heard from the principal, but the fact that we had a file on her in the first place reinforced my impression of Sakaki's importance. With a background like this, I suppose a bodyguard or two might be warranted. She may be a normal classmate to you, but the circumstances surrounding her are tangled and potentially dangerous. So it would seem. Numerous parties have had their eyes on her as the only child of the East Beach Group's president. Since the girl seems particularly fond of solitude, the risk of a potential kidnapping can no longer be ignored. But you want me to protect her by myself? She'd likely object to any elaborate measures, and even if we could assign 10 random security police to look after her, I doubt they'd be worth one of you. Don't ever overestimate me too much, it'll end up biting you in the ass. As of 1200 hours today, you're to officially commence this duty. Should disturbances arise, you are authorized to suppress them with force. Understood. The reason I've been poking my nose into Sakaki's life to the point of following her around. Not a manifestation of any personal feelings on my part, but rather the result of a perfectly legitimate order handed down to me in a professional capacity. Since I've been employed in this role, I fully intend to approach it seriously. In my line of work, your orders have absolute priority, even when a job happens to involve a close friend or relative. And protecting a classmates from approaching threats is something I do without even being asked. So I didn't have any real reason to refuse. So I assumed the role of Sakaki Yumiko's bodyguard without her knowledge. However, although I had anticipated as much from the start, the mission in question quickly encountered a number of practical difficulties. Yo, where are you off to? For some reason, you've been asking me that a great deal lately. Have I? Has nothing to do with you, goodbye. You're aware that I can't leave when you're standing there, yes? Where are you headed again? Didn't catch it the first time. You're being extremely persistent. Wherever I'm heading is none of your business, is it? Will you please just step aside? Why, going somewhere in a hurry? going down by the station to a used bookstore where I'm planning to buy a book I've had on my eye for a while. Title: A History of Russian Folk Instruments. Author: Komuro Jusei. Satisfied now? Doesn't know. Alright, you're free to go. I certainly don't need your permission. Okay then, let's go. What, you again? Why the again? Not like we run across each other that often. I have the feeling these one-on-one encounters are becoming much more frequent lately. By the way, you headed anywhere in particular? What on earth does it matter? Oh, somewhere you can't tell me about? Everything alright? If you hadn't noticed, I was trying to ignore you and walk off. Is there some reason you went around and cut me off? Well, you didn't answer the question. Pretty rude. I don't know, can't you make an educated guess about the circumstances for my attitude? Those circumstances are what I'm asking about. If there's some kind of problem, then... I'm visiting the... something. The whatever that is. Do you understand why I didn't feel like explaining myself to you? I believe I have a solid grasp of the situation. My apologies. Enjoy your trip. Oh, she's blushing. She's really on guard. Now I can blame her. From the moment I began putting my instructions into practice, Sakaki's gotten a great deal more wary around me. The reason, of course, is my abrupt intrusion into her bubble of isolation. It's entirely understandable. When someone who hasn't demonstrated much interest in you suddenly develops an acute interest in your movements, anyone would get a little suspicious. But since I'm acting on orders here, retreating outside of her comfort zone isn't an option. Why are you counting? 2, 3, 4. Alright then, I'll be buying this every last share. Come on, Sachin, if you land there, the game ain't even gonna be competitive. Hold on, Sachi, you're buying up the railroad? Wait, no, I'll seriously go bankrupt. Cut me a break here. I feel your pain, Michiru-sama, I truly do. Through my seizure of this railroad line, your last glimmer of hope will be utterly snuffed out, no matter how the dice fall. Only a life of exploitation at my hands awaits you. Yay! Monopoly! So, why am I willing to bet that I'd love for Sachi's game piece to be the boot, because it sounds like she's kicking everybody's asses. This is a game. Should I stay my hand at a mercy? The time we've invested into earnest competition will be rendered truly meaningless. Do you understand? I take this action for you, Michiru-sama. It may be painful for now, but please grit your teeth and endure. Where the heck did you pick up that pain is pleasure philosophy? You sound like a friggin' dominatrix. I mean, forget enduring or whatever. If you steal that from me, it's just game over. Come on! I'll buy it all. It's just Monopoly! After returning from class, I was immediately invited to participate in playing a board game of Machinas. Not that I was given much choice in the matter. Depending on the square you land on, there are options to purchase stocks or property, and with development, you extract rent on others who land on those spaces. Machina seemed confident she'd win, but once we actually got started, Sachi picked up with fearsome speech. She's been slowly, cruelly squeezing the cash out of us like juice from a grapefruit. Shirochiru seriously lost her road through life. 1 would be Sachi, 2 would be Yushi, 3 is Machina, 4, 5, 6 are all Sachi. God, it's no good, I'm trapped. Don't you play with 2 dice in Monopoly, though? I'm trying to remember if you play with 2 dice. It's true, wherever you land, your money's going straight down the drain. Why don't you just sell those stocks you've been hoarding away so stubbornly? They're only slowing you down. Bonus from cashing them in at the end of the game can totally flip the rankings on their head. With my purchase of the railroad, Michiru-sama's stocks have crashed rather severely. Utterly wiped out, in fact. Not even worth the paper they're printed on. In particular, Michiru's being economically annihilated on a scale that reminds me of one of the old Soviet Union's downfall. Guess her luck's just terrible, but it seems like every time the girl makes a move, she ends up falling into a trap of Sachi's and forking over her liquid cash. If this game were taking place in a mahjong salon or something, I'd seriously be wondering about weighted dice at this point. Struggle on as best as you can, everyone. My life is already over. With this asset secured, it seems that I'm well on my way to another victory. Thanks to a certain doofus who keeps feeding her cash. It's like spitting into the wind. My stocks. My poor innocent stocks. The outcome of the battle's already been decided, just give in. In that moment, we all stood on the brink of abandoning resistance against our dominant foe. Sakaki strides quietly out the front door without so much as a glance in our direction. I'm going out for a while. Cause suddenly you have to follow her. We're still in the middle of the game. I have to do something for work. Sorry to skip out early. You three finished the game without me, alright? What are you supposed to do with your stuff? One of you take over my position. It'll be a good exercise in parallel processing, right? Anyway, see you later. We ain't playing a video game here, you know? Not like we can flip a switch to put you in computer mode. What a friggin' pain. Work has to take priority. Maki-chan, why don't we just wrap this up peacefully by declaring me the winner? This whole crying over a game thing reminds me of frame perfection. Well, like some of the older, like more cringy frame perfection clips, like he's like much more mature these days compared to like some of the stuff from like 6 years ago. I'm back, so I just saw Yushi run off. He going somewhere? Run off to God knows where, chasing a woman's butt. A woman? Who's that exactly? Old bony but the broody. Sakaki-san, you better watch it with that. Things would get seriously ugly if she overheard. Does Ryuji really like his butts that scrawny? Gotta say, he's been acting pretty weird around Sakaki-san lately. I have to agree with you on that. He's been expressing uncharacteristic curiosity about her destination every time they come across each other. Just the other day I saw him grilling Yumi-chan when she was trying to go to the friggin' bathroom. She weren't too pleased. Quite frankly, that sounds kind of stalkerish. This path's hopeless. No, but this one's even worse. Incidentally, is there some reason Michiru's mourning like an invalid? This one, I was out of that as well. Talking to herself softly, Sakaki picks her way through a shelf of art supplies. Her riding to the station area was evidently an extremely minor errand. Seems like she's just replenishing her stock of artistic materials. Mishima Cape gets a fair amount of traffic, but it's still a small city. There are plenty of inconspicuous blind spots and back alleys where threats could be lurking. I keep a diligent eye on Sakaki from behind, checking for suspicious characters among the other customers and watching for any vans nearby that might attempt to grab and run as she leaves. It's gone rather dark out. Then she sets back off on the road to school with the same steady pace as always. Following from a distance, I jot down a few quick notes on today's events in a pocket-sized memo book. Abnormalities, none worth noting, I guess. Everything was normal. Whoever's on day duty, make sure to lock up the classroom and bring the key back. Hey Makana, I'm going straight out to do a little shopping today. Come along and help out? Really wonder who took out that stuff I left in the laundry this morning? Yes. Large quantities of your underwear have been left negligently scattered about the place, so I collected them and put everything in order. Was that problematic in some way? Just got along harder for some reason. Technically, we're not an all-female household anymore. I know, that's why Excuse me, everyone. Alright, see you all later. Yet again with the butt chasing. What is this, the 4th day in a row? How long is this after-school stalking fun time going to last? It's got a kind of a dirty ring to it. Oh, with the after-school and the fun time and everything. I believe it's because your mind is saturated with filthy delusions, Michiru-sama. Excuse me. I wasn't thinking dirty thoughts, I just imagined some dirty stuff for a second, that's all. Sure, whatever you say, moving right along. At this point, it really seems like there's nothing more than just curiosity, right? Dying to know why he's chasing that ice-cold robot girl around all of a sudden. Why don't you ask Yuji to his face, then? For one thing, I doubt he'd answer. That was really bugging me. What the heck is he thinking? He wouldn't just turn into a stalker overnight. Makes no sense, and why Yumiko of all people? If you think too hard, your brain will likely melt down. Try to proceed in this slow and careful fashion to avoid overheating. Can you not talk about my brain like it's some kind of cheap-ass imported machinery? I do understand where you're coming from. Once you start thinking about this, it's hard to stop, but we don't really have any way of knowing what's going on. Yeah, Chase. Got no choice but to investigate. Investigate? How are we supposed to do that exactly? No choice but to gather information and devise our own hypothesis? Lend me your spare key, Amani. You want to start rummaging around in Yuji's room? Don't know if that's such a good idea. We're talking about Oni-chan here. He wouldn't leave evidence lying around his room if it was anything fishy. Not like it's gonna kill us to take a look-see, right? We'll begin our investigation this evening. Don't come crying to me later. Leave me out of this. I didn't say a thing. No comment. I think you're aware, but starting now, you're under my command. Refer to me as captain for the duration of this mission. Very good. Have you got the goods I asked you to bring? We're fully supplied with gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints. I've also brought a portable light capable of producing 1,000 lumens. Let's begin the investigation. Sir! One heck of a dreary room, as always. There isn't much here, but at least it isn't cluttered. Where shall we begin working, Captain? Let's start with more conspicuous places. Nothing here, so far. There's nothing here, Captain. I'm not seeing anything either. I thoroughly searched the top of his desk, the trash bin, and under the bed, but couldn't locate any pornographic material. It would be fun to see some of Amani's reaction if we found a mag with centerfold that looks like Yumi-chan, but that sort of interesting stuff just ain't anywhere to be found. Perhaps we have no choice but to ask Kazami after all. Let's just get out of here for the moment. Things would get kind of messy if Oni-chan came home, and with this sort of investigation, you gotta know when to quit. Captain, what did you just step on? What's this, a memo book? Peter. Huh? Makina memorized everything in Yuji's notebook on the spot, then typed it up on the PC. Couldn't exactly walk out of the room with it after all. Rather amazing you could just memorize it like that, Maki-chan. Good work, I think. Maybe. You guys didn't do anything else in there, right? I'm the one who loaned you the key and all, so, hurry up and read it already. It's some pretty crazy stuff, you know? Okay, Michiru, you sure jumped right into reading that. I thought you wanted to do nothing to do with this. Michiru? What is this? Let's see, July 18th, weather fine, but waves high. Today was a holiday, so there were many civilians in the street, no noteworthy events. What's so bad about this? Problem lies thereafter, Amane-san. There's more. Sakaki Yumiko's movements. 1428, left her room in the dorms, questioned her at the entrance, after which she went out. 1553, returned home, went straight to the second floor and entered her room. Is this? It is indeed. The memo book contained extensive records concerning the surveillance of Sakaki-san. For the time being, I'll keep going. July 19th, 2012. Left her room and went outside. Made her way to the convenience store using inconspicuous back roads. Although she approached the vicinity of the over 18 magazine counter, after 4 minutes frozen to the spot, she heaved a single sigh. Proceeded to purchase a single cheap pudding and go home. Just as she was approaching the dorm, realized that they'd forgotten to give her a spoon. Quietly expressed her resentment towards a certain clerk. July 20th, 1744. While loitering around the campus, abruptly began humming to herself in a third-floor corridor. After 10 seconds, she grew self-conscious and stopped. After carefully looking around her and confirming no one was nearby, resumed her previous humming at increased volume. 1834. Returned to the dorm with an oddly exhausted expression on her face. July 21st, 1818. Rummaged through a wagon sale outside the used bookstore by the station for 26 minutes, then headed to the art supply store next door. So on and so forth. Her destination was the visitor's bathroom based on the time she spent inside. Her objective was likely urination. This thing is ridiculously detailed. He followed her around practically every day, asking where she was going at every opportunity and recorded the results. So in other words, this is, well, pretty much stalking, isn't it? It's hard to call it anything else. Yuji of all people. A shock and truth was waiting for us. One extremely interesting discussion. Yumiko! I'm not Guan Yu, so spare me the gah. Now then, about those notes. You're quite sure they're Kazami-kun's work? That's right! We snuck into his room and copied the stuff from his memo book, so it's gotta be. It's hard to imagine anyone else wrote this, I'm afraid. In that case, I suppose there's nothing for it. What nerve. And such detail. Even the times I thought I was alone. The humming, and the pudding too. I'm going to take this off your hands, assuming you have no objections. Go right ahead, by all means! You'll pay for this, because I'm a Yuji. This is really bad. What the heck do we do now? Sakaki-san had bloody murder in her eyes, didn't she? What are you gonna do? Yuji pretty much owes her an explanation after all that. Captain Creepo can fend for himself. Captain Creepo can fend for himself. That was blunt. I mean, not that I completely disagree. Never would have guessed Yuji was into this sort of stuff. I'm so not dealing with this! Don't come crying to me if it turns into a total disaster. Michiru is such a worrywart, but seriously, I wonder why Yuji did this in the first place. That would be obvious, but it's Yuji we're talking about. Wouldn't he be a lot more straightforward about it? Oni-chan's the aggressive type. Less stalking, more pin you down, have his way with you. You don't mince words. I didn't think Yuji would just come out and tell somebody if he had feelings for them, you know? In any case, he's no doubt getting a thorough interrogation at the hands of a vicious ogre right about now. We'll just have to see what happens. Would you mind explaining yourself? Bursting onto the rooftop, Sakaki strides up to me with a look of pure fury on her face, and then hurls a bundle of paper in my general direction. Putting that aside for the moment, can you retract the blade before we talk? And in her left hand, the girl is holding her fully extended box cutter. Her knuckles are white. Even from a few meters away, I can see her hand trembling. Hurry up and explain yourself. Who did this? Makina? Sachi? What on earth does that matter? Why are you following me around like some kind of stalker? I did stow the documents from JP about Sakaki's personal data inside a securely locked drawer. There's not much risk they found those, but my notes on Sakaki's movements didn't contain anything problematic from a professional perspective, so I wasn't nearly as careful with them. Obviously a serious mistake. At the moment, there's a more immediate problem to deal with. I'll have to punish the trespassers later. What do you have to say for yourself? I expect an answer! It's pretty simple. I was asked to guard you, that's all. What? The rage on Sakaki's face instantly changes to utter confusion. Your father contacted my employer. After determining that your personal safety was at risk, they made arrangements for your protection. I've been assigned to the job, so knowing where you are at all times is my responsibility. I'll apologize if you find it disturbing. Sakaki's sharp glare falters. Her eyes drop to the ground at her feet. Gripping her knife even more firmly than before, she mutters something too quietly for me to hear. Her voice grows louder until at last a few words squeeze their way out of her mouth. Not necessary. Say what? I don't know what my father told you, but a bodyguard's the last thing I need. You're the daughter of the East Beach Group's president. That places you in a dangerous position if you keep walking around without any security eventually. I don't particularly mind if someone does come for me. What's the worst that could happen? I end up dead? Oh, what? Let them kill me then. Suits me fine. I can still see the anger in Sakaki's face, but it's changed. There's a hint of something reckless and indifferent in her expression. Something like resignation. It's not as though this life's anything worth protecting. In any case, stop this nonsense immediately. The hell was that about? I can understand that having someone follow you around is unpleasant. But the reason Sakaki refused my protection doesn't seem to have much to do with that. The woman talks like she's completely disinterested in her own safety. Of course I was ordered to protect her, so I'm gonna have to continue doing so. But it's unsettling to hear her talk like that. I left a bad taste in my mouth. There was practically nothing concerning of her past, or that of the East Beach group, though. This borderline self-destructive attitude clearly didn't come from nowhere. I just don't have enough information to make sense of it. For now, the only thing I can do is take care of the job I was assigned. What did I skip past by mistake? Can't say if this applies to more typical student dormitories, but in this place, there isn't that dramatic a difference in atmosphere between school days and vacation days. The residents wear casual clothes instead of school uniforms, that's about it. Days off aren't really that much of an upper, and weekdays aren't that strong a downer. The energy level around here appears to stay pretty much constant. Amane is always doing her best dog and heat impression. Makana is constantly battling away on dubious Japanese. Sachi never fails to offer perfect services with a superficially polite smile, and Michiru, of course, is an idiot 24/7. I'll avoid that save. Sure. And just hit end stream and probably do a Yumiko route part 2 sometime soon. Yeah, I wonder what Fizz is gonna find out when he finds out, like, this stream is gonna maybe pop up in his feed, like... Wonder how he's gonna react besides with the obvious. You should have been done this, I don't know, maybe a year ago or something.